Hello, friends. I am Chevee. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. I finished Tears of the Kingdom. I keep wanting to say Breath of the Wild. I finished Tears of the Kingdom this week. And I have thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts. I put, my Switch tells me, over 125 hours into Tears of the Kingdom, which explains my lack of hours for my side job last month. uh, it's odd for me to think that I had 125 spare hours over 3 weeks to do that, but whatever. I didn't sleep much, and I played a lot. I did nothing on the weekends, but played, 12-hour sessions or whatever. That being said, I don't know that I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed it, obviously. I am not. Well, I am no longer a person that continues to do something I don't enjoy. I am absolutely willing to put something down that I don't enjoy, and just saying not for me and moving on with my life. I did not do that for the longest time. I did the sunken cost fallacy of I've spent money on this. I've spent X time on this. I have to get through this. I've also done these 20 people said this is amazing. It must be amazing. Not worth it. My life isn't long enough for me to continue that train of thought. If I'm not enjoying something, I'll put it away. I'll just let it go. So, obviously I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it is. I did not enjoy it because it was a Legend of Zelda game. That's the difference. Breath of the Wild was refreshing and fun and exciting and interesting. Tears of the Kingdom didn't add to that. In fact, it made it worse. And here's why. Weapon durability, shield durability, I don't care about any of that stuff. Like, that's fun for me. I enjoy the resource management aspect of needing to keep a stash of weapons, whatever. That doesn't bother me at all. I know it bothers a whole lot of people. Did not bother me at all. The thing that bothered me about the game was that they made the map, 3 times as big. There's 3 maps now. There's a sky map, a land map, and an under map. The upside down. Let's call it what it is. It's the upside down. It's not the depths or whatever. It's Stranger Things. It's literally, that's what it is. The problem is they did that. They added that space, but they didn't really add any content. I mean, they did, but the content that they added was just, here's X more collectibles. If you go get these 12 things, you'll get this. If you go get these 150 things, you'll get this. If you go get these 20 things, you'll get that. If you collect this, you'll get that. If you go get this, you'll get that. There's hundreds of things that are just like ancillary to the game that mean nothing. It's just something for you to go farm. And that's not interesting. It's not fun. It's not interesting. I felt like the puzzles weren't interesting. They added all of these game-breaking elements, which, as a RPG, it felt like Link leveled up. Even in the beginning when you start, spoiler alert, you start off as Link at the end of Breath of the Wild, and you lose all of your hearts, you lose all of your stamina, you lose everything, but you gain a new arm with a whole bunch of special abilities. Right out of the gate. Like, very early, you gain bunches of special abilities. You can warp through ceilings. You can pick stuff up, with your hand and attach it together to build interesting things, contraptions. You can stop time, reverse time. I don't even know what I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting stuff. Whatever. They added all of that stuff. And so the puzzles that came along with those weren't really particularly interesting. Breath of the Wild's temples were really fun. Like, a lot of them were like, how do I solve this? This one was like, it's just a chore to go through these damn temples. You just felt like, there's not a difficult thing to solve here. I'm just have to do the motions and move on with my life. And there was Maybe I don't know how many of the shrines I did. They're called shrines. I don't know why I'm calling them temples. I don't know how many of the shrines I did, but I ended the game with like 32 hearts, I think. So I did a lot of them, and full stamina. So I did a lot of them. And I would say maybe 4 of them had me stumped for a few seconds. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, I felt stumped a lot. Like, how do I solve this? Right? And the ones that stumped me, I don't even know that they stumped me. It's just that they were particularly difficult physical puzzles. You know, playing golf with a ball and a lever, like that sort of stuff. Like, you had to just try over and over again. Or they were combat. Some of them were like pretty intensive combat scenarios where you had a stick. So, the story was good. The story was interesting. The characters were interesting. But there was just so much ancillary stuff. Just so much filler because the game wasn't interesting enough on its own. Like it was just the same game with hundreds of layers of filler piled on top. It wasn't exciting. I didn't find myself ever like excited. Is that true? There were moments like when you finally make it to the Deku tree, you're like, oh man, this guy's been with me for 30 years. I love this guy. 20 years, whatever. I love this guy. Or finding Beetle for the first time. Like, Beetle, you're freaking crazy. You're always running around doing stuff. Finding some of those random wandering adventurers that give you small quests. That's fun stuff. There's those moments. You know, the story moments. I did tear up a little bit at the 2 pivotal moments. I'm not going to give spoilers there if you want to play it someday. But there was definitely some invested emotion. I felt like that invested emotion was more historical than for that particular game. Like, in that particular product, I wasn't necessarily emotionally invested, but I've been emotionally invested in Zelda for 28 years, right? So it was a lot of that, right? Like, this is the thing. But I felt like there was just too much. I said this before in my Zelda's Not For Me video, that the charm of Zelda for me has always been that it's like it is a simple adventure game. It is a simplified, like, not necessarily for kids, but it is a low headroom adventure game. And Tears of the Kingdom is not that. Tears of the Kingdom is a very heady, very complex. Do you feel like you're doing it wrong the entire time? Like, oh, am I missing something? And that map thing, it felt like, I haven't looked this up. The overworld map the same, like, physical size as the Breath of the Wild map? Because I feel like I found myself not riding. I basically never rode a horse because there was nothing to see, right? Like, you had to go walk 5 minutes in that direction. There's literally nothing for you to discover or to find. There's just walk 5 minutes in that direction. So I warped a lot. I would warp because I just didn't care. Like, there's nothing out there for me to find. There are Koroks, sure. Inventory expansion, it didn't matter. I maybe did it a couple of times. It was just like, this isn't important at all. Like, I don't need that. And so I just warped everywhere because walking was just a pain. Like, there was no interesting things to find. There was no cool stuff. Yeah, there probably was, and I'm an idiot. Like, there was probably some armor sets out there in the wild that I could have discovered. Whatever. There was fun. You could build fun machines. I very rarely did it. They had these little, like, pods all over. If you haven't seen the building thing, one of the powers of your glove is you can pick stuff up, and if you get 2 things that are pick-upable near each other, you can attach them together, and they become permanently affixed. And you could build all kinds of cool stuff. And so all over the overland map, there were these little, like, we set some building supplies here. And the only reason I ever used them was to help the dude hold signs up. Like, I didn't build anything. Like, I didn't ride cars around. It just wasn't interesting. It was like, I built planes because I needed to fly between the islands, and you really couldn't glide a lot of times. You had to fly. But other than that, I didn't really do a whole lot. It was weird. It was a weird experience because I obviously enjoyed myself enough to continue playing it, but I also didn't feel like I was playing it because it was my. I was playing it more because of my love for the series than my love for the product, and it just felt right to try to do some of it. I'm definitely not the kind of person who's going to try to 100% the game. And if there is DLC, I'm sure there is. I'll probably never play it. I've never played the Breath of the Wild DLC. I bought it, never played it. I'd never go back. I'll never play this game again. That was my one experience with it, and I enjoyed my time. But I'm actually pretty happy it's over because it is one of those things that when I start something like that, I know I'm going to get lost in it, and it's time to move on. I'm ready for, reading books again and spending time with kids and riding motorcycles and that sort of stuff, which we might do this weekend. What do you got going on? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should notice sounds smart is refulgent. It's an adjective meaning radiant, gleaming, shining brightly. When Anastasia moved her bejeweled hand while lounging in the midday sunshine, her sparkling diamonds were refulgent. 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 I don't know why that's so difficult but that's a good word, refulgent. I still like redolent better, but refulgent will work for me.